On this channel, we provide useful programming information with practical code examples. This time, we will talk about the nullish coalescing operator in JavaScript. It also includes practical topics such as the differences between the nullish coalescing operator and the logical OR operator. Enabling subtitles will make the code descriptions easier to understand. In JavaScript, the nullish coalescing operator evaluates whether a value is null or undefined, and returns a different default value if so. It is similar to the commonly used logical OR operator, but differs in that it specializes in null and undefined. The logical OR operator returns the right-hand value if the left-hand value is falsy, whereas the nullish coalescing operator returns the right-hand value only when the left-hand value is null or undefined. This feature allows correct handling of values like 0 and empty strings. The basic syntax is as follows. Value is the value being checked. Default value is the value returned when value is null or undefined. The following example implements a process to return a default value in case of null or undefined. In this code, since name is null, the value of default name, anonymous, is returned. If name is a value other than null or undefined, that value is returned. The nullish coalescing operator is similar to the logical OR operator but has an important difference. The logical OR operator checks for falsy values, false, 0, nan, null, undefined, etc. Whereas the nullish coalescing operator checks only for null and undefined. In this way, the nullish coalescing operator retains valid values such as 0 and empty strings, and returns a default value only when necessary. Since the logical OR operator treats these values as falsy and returns the default value, it is important to choose the appropriate operator depending on the use case. The nullish coalescing operator can also be combined with other logical operators, but caution is required when doing so. For example, when using it together with the logical OR operator, or the logical AND operator, and in parentheses should be used to clarify the order of operations. In this example, A, B is evaluated first, and since A is null, B is returned. Then, B, C is evaluated, and since B is falsy, C is finally returned. The following are cases where the nullish coalescing operator is useful. Default values for forms. This can be used in scenarios where a default value is set for form input fields when the user does not input anything. API response handling. Fallback processing can be performed when the value is null or undefined in responses from the API. The nullish coalescing operator is very useful for initializing data and handling API responses, as it returns a default value when encountering null or undefined. In particular, it is a better choice than the traditional logical OR operator when you want to properly handle falsy values such as 0 or empty strings. In JavaScript, the nullish coalescing assignment operator has been introduced to efficiently assign a new value to variables that hold null or undefined. This operator is a convenient shortcut for assigning to a variable only if a specific value is null or undefined. The nullish coalescing assignment operator works as follows. If a variable is null or undefined, it assigns the right-hand side value. If the variable is neither null nor undefined, it does nothing and retains the current value. The basic syntax of the nullish coalescing assignment operator is as follows. Y is assigned to X if X is null or undefined. If X already has a value, not null or undefined, X's value will not be changed. Let's look at a basic example of the nullish coalescing assignment operator. In this code, since username is null, the value of default name is being assigned. Next, here's an example where the value is neither null nor undefined. In this case, since Alice is already set for username, no assignment is made. JavaScript has several other assignment operators as well. In particular, the difference with the logical OR assignment operator, OR equal, is important. The logical OR assignment operator assigns a value even when encountering falsy values such as false, 0, or an empty string, whereas the nullish coalescing assignment operator only operates when the value is null or undefined. Since the nullish coalescing assignment operator only operates on null or undefined, it is very useful when you want to retain values like 0 or false. A real-world use case for the null coalescing assignment operator can be as follows. Setting default values. It is useful for setting default values when user input or API responses can be null or undefined. Handling optional parameters. It can also be utilized to perform default actions when function arguments are not specified. The nullish coalescing assignment operator only assigns a value when the left-hand value is null or undefined, making code more concise and helping to prevent unintended assignments. Especially when dealing with falsy values like 0 or false, it can be more appropriate than the traditional logical OR operator, OR equal. By utilizing this operator, you can create more robust and readable code. The source code for this video can be downloaded from the official website. If you like, please visit the URL in the description to aid your learning. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.